Hi everyone, welcome to week 13. We are almost to the end of the semester. This week we are going to move on to Excel Module 10. There are 11 modules and we are to Module 10. So one more module after this one and we'll be done. This module, more kind of odds and ends pieces of Microsoft Excel. You're going to be learning about data analysis and then creating macros. So what is data analysis? So we've done pivot tables up to this point, and pivot tables are built off of one table generally. But we're going to take it to another level where we can create what we call a power pivot table, where it's pulling data from multiple tables. And there could be multiple tables in one workbook, or that could be multiple tables in multiple workbooks. And so what you're going to learn is about how to use that data analysis at that level. It's just taking pivot tables to the next power. You're going to learn a little bit about 3D maps. You're going to learn how to insert a hyperlink, which is a pretty common feature. And then the last one is macros, and macros are huge. So a lot of companies don't allow you to use macros because macros tend to be things that people will program with viruses, and then they'll share a workbook with a macro in it, and then when you run that macro, it'll infest your computer with a virus. If it's a workbook that's been created internally, a lot of the companies I worked for, those macros were safe. And what a macro is, it's like keystroke. So for example, say you create a report that you format the same way every time, or you might print the same way. So you might have to have the longer paper, like the longer ledger paper. And so rather than every time you need to print this report, you go up to the ribbon and you go to the print settings and you go through all the different settings, you can create what we call a macro and a button where you set this up so you record all the steps that it takes to get that task done, and then you assign it to what we call macro button. And so the next time you want to run that report, rather than go to the ribbon and go through all the different steps, you just go click your macro button and poof, just like that, it converts that report into the formatting you want, and then you can print it out just that way. And so that's the beauty of the macro. The only issue is a lot of companies won't let you use macros, but a lot of companies that I worked for, we did get to use the macros, and they are very handy and very useful, and you can do a lot of things with macros. And so that's what you're learning this week. Again, if you have any questions or any issues with Cengage, it can be glitchy. I worked on a project the other day where I'd done it in class with my students, submitted it, came back and said I had a 0, and I knew I did it right, waited a few minutes, resubmitted it, and then I graded it. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can always ask me email challenge. If you feel like you've done it right and you think Cengage has maybe got it wrong or not reading it right, challenge it, because that's why we have the grade override, is that sometimes just the files downloading, being used on different computers, depending on what computer you have and the software, sometimes the files just get glitchy and it might mark something wrong that's not wrong. So if you look at it and you definitely are confident that you got it right, you can always send me an email. I would be happy to check it. And if I can't see where you've gone wrong either, I just do a grade override. We've been submitting requests to Cengage to fix some things, but sometimes they come back and say, well, that's just if you do an alt enter, for example, and go down to a second line letter rather than letting the text just run a line, that will cause an error. So you can do something a correct way, but sometimes there's just certain things embedded in their algorithms. And some students never have any issues. So that's one of the quirky things about an online program, but always reach out to me if you have any questions. And that's all I have for you this week. So I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving break. And when we come back from Thanksgiving, we'll have one more module, a capstone project, which is your final. We do not do an overall final project in this class. And we'll do a final file management checkup and we'll be all done. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you have a great week, a great Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.